We'd done a little bit of pre-prod before. I think we'd done about 3 or 4 sort of sessions of pre-production. I remember really focusing heavily on what Joel was doing and his drum groove and how it should support the metering of the vocals. We sort of broke it down and slightly adjusted things so that when he started playing it again, there were things that to him didn't feel any different but made a massive difference with the feeling. I remember meeting the band and watching the way Joel played, and he sort of reminded me of like Dave Grohl or something in the way that he played. He sort of was like little baby animal, really kind of like bashing the cymbals, and there was like a lot of excitement in what he was doing. So there were a few things that I wanted to adjust to kind of help support the metering of and the groove and feel of the vocal. And I remember him saying, I don't really notice any difference, but I felt a little bit of difference. One of the other interesting things, which I'll talk about later on, is that it was when I discovered how important cymbals were, because a normal instinct when a drum groove is really cymbal heavy is, in order to kind of get clarity in the kick and the snare, you might want to overdub the cymbals or kind of break the sounds up. But I found by doing that, he played it differently and he kind of lost the energy and the excitement. So I really had to kind of challenge myself to work out how was I going to record the cymbals and include them as part of the personality of the song. And you'll see later on that they heavily feature. By the time I was recording this track with Foals, I think I was pretty match fit when it came to engineering drum sounds. And there were some sort of standard setups that I would use, and also depending on what studio I'd go to, I'd like find fun toys to kind of use as part of the sounds. And just looking through here, I can see that there's a Simmons kick, which we used, which I'd totally forgotten about. And I had a clap trap, which I took with me, I think, and which was triggered off the snare. So all these sounds were kind of running live while the band were playing so that they could feel what I was feeling as they were playing it. I love sort of things that you can react to. I'm interested to hear what the Simmons kick sounds like. It's funny how it's triggering, because what's the kick actually doing? Oh, it is doing what the kick's doing. No, it's also being triggered by the snare, it seems, as well. God, that's where a lot of the weight's coming from. And then this is the claptrap sound, which also features quite heavily in the track. Sort of a little black box with 3 old kind of keyboard buttons on it. And it's like fun to play. It's like an old kind of 80s keyboard vibe. I'm sure this is really common, but I would have a kick in, kick out mic and a sub mic, like the NS10 cone, snare top and bottom. And I think at the time I had a pair of 57s, which I swore at the time were the best sounding 57s ever. So I took them everywhere with me. So that was my top and bottom snare mic. I would then use a KM on the hi-hat. And these were a lot of mics that were kind of standard in a lot of studios. Kick in would have been a D112 and kick out might have been a D25 or a U47, but I'm pretty sure I would have insisted on a D25. And ICP have such an amazing choice of microphones. I'm sure that they would have had those. There was also another mic that I still use, which is a bullet mic, which I sort of put under the snare in between the kick and the snare stand. If I'm at battery, I'll run it through a Helios, one of Flood's old Helios, and it's really sort of chunky and noisy and gritty, and you can really kind of dial in the EQ. And then I'll compress it quite heavily using a distressor. I can't remember what mic pre we used at ICP, but definitely would have run it through the distressor. I'll just show you what the bullet sounds like. It's cool. It's like got a little bit of crunch to it. It's picking up a lot of things. I love it. It's warm. Rack and floor, Tom's probably used 421s. Overheads, probably Coles or, well, let's have a listen. Yeah, they're not too disgusting. They sound like Coles. And on a mono overhead, I would just use a 58 and I would just take the cap off. I think it just, the way it, I don't know, felt like it was compressing in a different way. I don't know. I just liked what it picked up.